A woman in her feminine energy has this radar about her where she can sense whether or not a man is going to waste her time or enhance her time. I mean, it's easy to waste time on a man who ends up deceiving you. He ends up lying to you. He ends up cheating on you simply because you weren't aware of the signs leading up to it. A woman in her feminine energy is selective with who she allocates her time to. But how can you do that if you don't know what signs you're looking for? Basically, the majority of men will show you signs before they actually cheat. If you are able to identify these signs early on and know the correct feminine response, it's going to empower you to be proactive earlier so you can get a different outcome, an outcome wherein which you will always hold the upper hand. So if you want to know what these signs are and how to deal with it in a feminine way, then stick around because it's all coming up right now. Hi, welcome back to the Vibration Vault. If you're new here, my name is Alia Zure. I help women all over the world navigate their love life in a more feminine way. So if that sounds like something that you want to do, make sure to subscribe to stick around. Okay, let's begin. So, disclaimer, if you notice that your man is doing one or many of these signs, it doesn't automatically mean that he is cheating or that he is going to cheat. But it does mean if you are experiencing one of these in your relationship, then it's something that you do want to bring up with your partner because it's a sign that your relationship may be running off course. And this is a great opportunity to get it back on course. Or perhaps you might even make the decision to leave the relationship for good. So the first one is he picks unnecessary fights with you. Let me give you an example. So lately you've been noticing that he's a lot more irritable than he used to be. He's picking fights that he never used to pick before. He's finding a way to make you wrong in every single scenario, and you both are just fighting so much more than you used to. Here is what's happening. He might not even know that he's doing this. However, his subconscious mind has this mechanism that is trying to make the relationship painful. Because if the relationship is painful and uncomfortable, it's going to make it easier for him to paint you as the villain. Basically meaning that it's going to make it easier to justify his cheating, whether that be to you or just to himself. In other words, he feels guilty about what he's about to do or what he's currently doing. So if he can make you seem like the bad person, then it's going to reduce the amount of guilt that he's going to feel. In this situation, you could use option one and you could go into your masculine energy and you could say, what is wrong with you? You are such a rude, horrible man. You always make me feel so miserable. And then you could start shouting and screaming and calling him every single horrible name under the sun. But when you do this, you are just helping him construct this idea, this false idea of you being this terrible and negative person. So instead, you would use option two and you would go into your feminine energy and you would say, hey, darling, I feel really upset when you lose your patience with me. This is so unlike you. Normally, you're very calm and you're very patient with me. Is everything okay with you? When you say this, you almost disarm him. You know that saying, kill them with kindness? This is what you're doing in this situation. You are not giving him an opportunity to paint you as the bad person. So when you do this, he's now forced to reflect on his behavior. Either he's going to find the decency to tell you that actually, darling, I'm not happy in this relationship and it's not something that I wish to continue with. And he's going to let you actually go and find the love of your life and your Prince Charming. Or he's going to continue to pick fights and continue this irritating behavior. If he does do this, a woman in her feminine energy knows when to physically walk away from the situation. You see, threatening to leave doesn't have the same impact on a man. A man is visual, so he is going to listen to you through your actions. So you have to actually physically get up and leave his presence, leave that scenario, leave that situation, for him to reflect and understand that this behavior and how he is treating you is not going to be tolerated. He needs to know that you're not going to stick around for the circus. The second one is he's very shady with his phone. So perhaps he even has two phones. Let me give you an example. Let's say he starts to take phone calls outside of the room that you guys are in together, or he starts to do everything in his power to prevent you from seeing his incoming text messages. Perhaps his phone is constantly on Do Not Disturb, or perhaps his phone is constantly on airplane mode. Here's the deal. People who don't have anything to hide aren't trying to hide anything. Even the other night, my partner was cooking us dinner and he was busy in the kitchen and his phone ended up pinging and it was a text message from someone. And he said to me, "Darling, can you just go and tell me who's messaged me?" And I got his phone and I read out the message to him and he said, "Okay, can you unlock my phone and send this message back?" Which I did because he has nothing to hide. If he doesn't want you to see his phone, or he is highly protective of his phone, then that is sketchy behavior. You could use option 1 and you could go into your masculine energy and you could say, "Who is she? I know that you're up to something. I know that you're hiding something from me. I don't trust you. You are a liar." But when you say this, he's just going to become very defensive. You're not going to extract any solid information from him by doing this. The furthest you're going to get with this approach is probably an argument. So instead, you would use option 2 and you would go into your feminine energy and you would say, "Baby, I love in relationships where they have this open communication and transparency, especially with their phones. You know, it's something that I'd love for our future kids to see, that mommy and daddy are very open with their phones and they're not secretive with each other. I think it's a great example if we had a daughter and a great example if we had a son. What do you think, baby?" When you say this to him, you are indirectly letting him know that you have recognized and identified his shady behavior. What you are doing when you say this to him is you are giving him an opportunity to make a change, to make a difference in this behavior. The third sign is he is vague and mysterious about the time that he spends away from you. Let me give you an example. Let's say your partner goes away, or just any man that you love, hypothetically, goes away on a guy's trip with his friends and he comes home. What's the first thing that that guy wants to do? He wants to tell you all about this trip, right? He wants to give you every single detail. He might even want to get his phone out and show you pictures and say, "Here, look, this is when the boys and I went here." Or, "Look at this restaurant that we went to. Look at how amazing this place was." Or, "Let me tell you a story about what happened when we went here." He's going to want to tell you all of the fun and exciting stories from the trip. Why? Because he loves you. You are his partner and he wants to share his life with you. The guy where something's off is going to be a little bit more mysterious about his time away. He's not going to voluntarily share information or willingly share information with you. He's going to want to be vague, and he's going to want to be vague about the details because those details could later lead to some incriminating evidence. Now, you have to take into consideration that people in general, as humans and men, everyone's very different. Some guys are a bit more reticent and they don't want to share everything. It's just in their nature. But where this crosses the line and it blurs into more suspicious behavior is when he gets irritated with you when you ask about the details. He will get mad at you and he will try and convince you that you are too all up in his business. He's just going to get very irritated with you for asking about what went on this trip. So if you are asking questions to him and he's getting angry because you're requesting the details, then yeah, that's a major red flag. If you want to know the name of the restaurant that him and his friends went to, what's the problem? What's the issue, darling? How does he know that you're not just asking for the name of this restaurant because you actually want to take a trip and go with your girlfriends to that restaurant? Listen, if you're watching this and you are experiencing this currently in real time with your partner, he is not your dream man, because this communication style is not something a husband would do. It's not a communication style that a woman in her feminine energy is going to tolerate. You can't even attempt to entertain a man when he is behaving in this way. The fourth one is that he tries to gaslight you. Let me give you an example. Let's say you got into an argument with him and you have just caught him in this blatant lie. He tries to make you look like you are the crazy one. You are the one who's not trusting him. You are the paranoid one. What he's going to do is he's going to try and flip the script on you. Better yet, he might even try an attempt to make it look like you are attacking him. He's the victim and there's absolutely nothing that he's done wrong. When all the while, even though he's trying to gaslight you, none of his stories are making sense. None of his stories are adding up. He still doesn't have any straight answers for what is actually going on. What he's trying to do is gaslight you, because if he can get you to even slightly, partially doubt yourself, if he can get you to question whether or not you have interpreted his stories of events correctly, and then lead you to believe that in fact it was you who's actually misinterpreted these stories and events, then he moves up into a position of power. Do not fall for this. You cannot let him do this to you. If you sense that something is off, then something is off. If the story isn't adding up, then it isn't adding up. You need to trust that part of yourself, and you need to be bold enough and brave enough to have that conversation with him. A woman in her feminine energy is comfortable having the uncomfortable conversations, even if that leaves her in a vulnerable position, even if that makes her upset, even if it ruins the relationship, even if she finally is forced to take off the love goggles and see this man for who he truly is. A woman in her feminine energy is not going to jeopardize her long-term happiness. Well, this leads me into my fifth sign, and this is that your intuition just tells you something is off. Trust your intuition. Trust your intuition. Trust your intuition. You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. You're not nuts. Your intuition is there for a reason. It's this small internal voice that has been given to you by a higher power. It's there for a reason, so you need to trust it. If something feels like it's off, then there's a good chance that there is something that's off. You could use option one, and you could go into your masculine energy, and you could say nothing. You could just keep ignoring your intuition, which is strongly telling you that something isn't right. You could ignore it and carry on loving him and believing all of these stories, knowing that deep down, this man is not the man for you. However, you crave the idea of love and you fear that feeling of being alone. So you just continue to persist in this relationship that's not really fulfilling you, because you don't want to face the harsh reality of what's actually going on. But when you do this, you're going to devalue yourself. You're going to devalue yourself not only in his eyes, but in your own eyes. You're damaging your self-concept. You're damaging your self-concept in a way where now this is what you believe you have to accept in order to be loved, which is not true. You do not have to tolerate and accept this behavior in order to be loved. So instead, you would use option two, and you would go into your feminine energy, and you would say, something in this relationship doesn't feel quite right to me. My intuition has always been very strong, and I can feel you hiding something from me. Until you can share with me what it is you're hiding from me, then I don't think I can continue any longer in this relationship. It's affecting my happiness, and I can't love you when I feel like this. When you say this to him, it is going to rattle him to his core, because now he knows that your intuition is turned on. You are awake. You're not asleep. You're not a doormat. You're not ready to get trodden all over. You are awake. You are sensing his energy shift. You trust yourself more, and you know better. When you do this, he's either going to come clean and explain to you what's been going on or what's happened. Whether or not you decide you can move past that, that's your decision. That's up to you. That is something that you have to decide. Or he's going to become very, very defensive. Again, maybe he starts calling you names, calling you crazy, and calling you paranoid. If this happens, just know that you were right all along. Trust your intuition. It's your divine feminine protection, and you just cannot ignore it. You don't need any other reason. Your intuition is a good enough reason. If you feel like something doesn't feel right to you, then it's not. The quality of our life is determined by the number of uncomfortable conversations we can have with the people that we love. The willingness to have uncomfortable and difficult conversations early on in your relationship will be directly related to the quality and depth of the relationship that you create together. So, here's a question for you. What signs have you noticed before someone has ended up cheating on you? Let me know in the comment section below. So that is a wrap for today's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to hit the thumbs up, and please make sure to subscribe to stick around. So until next time, I love you. Mwah. Bye.